Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is the Unstoppable Podcast Show, and I am Jennifer Hardy. I am joined today with the beautiful Amanda Patti. Hey, Amanda, how are you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your show today.
Oh, of course. So, Amanda, where are you in the world just now?
So I'm in Danvers, Massachusetts, which is about a half hour northeast of Boston.
Oh, amazing, amazing. What's the weather like there just now? It's kind of been snowing a little bit here in Scotland. What is it like where you are?
It's actually been about the same this morning. We had a little bit of snow this morning and temperatures are dropping, so I think it's going to freeze over later
Oh my
today.
goodness.
Yeah.
Are you hoping for some sun at some point this year?
Oh my gosh, yes.
I'm in bad need of vitamin D now. Absolutely, I really am. So, Amanda, I'll tell the listeners a little bit about you. So, basically, what you do is you help high performers who technically have it all reduce the stress and the overwhelm and increase their happiness, which is just awesome. Because I was thinking a lot about when I was reading your podcast sheet that we send out, so that I can get a really good idea of the kind of stuff we're going to talk about today. And it is a huge, huge problem with high performers, with entrepreneurs, with career-driven people, that they really, because it's sometimes high pressured and much more stress when you're doing your own thing or you're constantly achieving and striving for greatness, their happiness can begin to slide. And you really can sometimes begin to, what's the word I'm looking for? To not enjoy the daily part of what you're doing in your business and your career. And isn't that the whole point? The whole point is you want happiness in every single way. So surely building and going through your career every step of the way, you should be able to find happiness in the entire journey, not just the end outcome. Yeah?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so interesting you bring that up because I shared a post on Instagram around that topic a few days ago, and how kind of on this entrepreneurial journey, on the high performance journey with executives and CEOs, we're constantly striving for the next thing.
Yeah.
And we're totally focused on like this end point, like someday we'll reach an end point and we'll finally have arrived.
Yeah, yep.
But yet that point never comes. We're on this continual journey of constantly climbing different peaks and mountains and experiencing different views. But it's like we can get so caught up in getting to that next point, that next level, hitting that next goal, that we actually forget to stop and look out and see what's around us and give ourselves permission just to like pause and breathe and acknowledge where we've been, what we've done, who we are, who we've become, and what's really going on in our lives. So it's like getting caught up in a hamster wheel, and then one day all of a sudden realizing, holy crap, I've been running in circles my entire life. I'm just going to sit down and stop and take a look around and enjoy the view.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think probably just in the last 3 or 4 months that's became my absolute sole focus, is making sure that the whole way through this journey that I'm embarking on, that every single morning I begin with gratitude, to place myself in a point of I'm thankful, I'm grateful, but I'm also taking stock of everything that's happening every step of the way. Because before, I was exactly that person, Amanda. I was that person who was hamster wheel, always striving for the next thing. When I got there, that wasn't good enough. I would want to move on and so forth. And burnout happens.
Yeah,
You're exhausted. You're mentally and physically exhausted by the end.
Yeah, it creates massive, massive burnout and unhappiness in life because nothing ever really fills that cup when we're chasing that metaphorical golden carrot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it comes back to that place of self-fulfillment, and gratitude, I find, is one of the absolute most important practices that we can incorporate in our day to start bringing that self-fulfillment piece into it, to start bringing that happiness piece into it, to take stock of, geez, what do I have in my life that I'm grateful for? What have I experienced today that I'm grateful for? And I like to think of it sometimes I do 2 gratitude practices, one at night before I go to bed. And instead of like counting sheep to fall asleep, sometimes I'll count my gratitudes.
Yeah.
How many things can I really, really feel grateful for? Not just list them off, just to create a list, but
Love
to
it.
actually genuinely feel grateful for that I experienced during that day. And then start the next morning with like, wow, you know what? I'm so grateful I woke up today.
Yes.
Like, I'm so grateful to be alive and that I'm breathing and I have this physical body to experience all of these different things in life. And I'm so grateful that, you know, I have a roof over my head and food and clothes, and start really tapping into what we have.
Yep. Which
from
is,
a place of gratitude.
yeah, which is what we have at even our kind of most basic level is monumentous.
It's huge.
We have walls. We have the air that we're breathing is clean and clear. We've got running water. We are the luckiest people in the world, you know. And I think as you are growing, as you're up leveling your business side of things, that can fall by the wayside, and you can forget to even appreciate those basic human needs and how thankful that we are that we have them.
Oh
Well,
yeah,
many don't, you know?
yeah. It's so easy to do because we get caught up into that daily grind and the hustle and the next big thing, and like, ooh, you know, what can I buy now that I have this? What can I buy that's going to make me feel better? That's going to give me some sort of sense of status or something, versus just saying, wait, you know, what do I have here? What do I have now?
Mm-hmm.
And realizing that the majority of the people on this planet don't have access to clean drinking water. They don't have access to food. A lot of them don't have shelter. It's like basic human needs that we can just sit and be like, wow, you know what? I really have a tremendous amount.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this brings us on really beautifully, actually, Amanda, to one of your ultimate goals and missions. Can you talk a little bit about what that is, Amanda? Because it was just when we had a chat actually way before we were going to do this podcast interview, and you were telling me about it, and I was like, I am there, I'm all in, tell me what's happening with it and how I can support. And I would love for you just to tell our listeners today what it is. What is your big goal, your big mission?
Yeah, so one of my big goals and missions is to actually mobilize at least $1 million to help Indigenous communities gain access to clean drinking water, have education, have, you know, food and clothing, and be able to really carry on their way of life versus coming in as a privileged white person. And I'll be the first to admit, yes, I'm white and living in a first world country. I am privileged, absolutely.
100%.
But to give them a space where they can honor their traditions without outside influence. And at the same time, like, express their voice, because they have so much to offer in this world, so much wisdom, so much knowledge.
Yes.
And yet they've been through so much pain, and we as a society in general haven't been giving them a platform to express themselves.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And a big part of that I directly incorporate that with that are my retreats.
Yes.
So all of my retreats include a social project. So this July, we're going back down to Nicaragua, and we're working with 5 families to build rainwater catchment systems. So they have access to water that they can do their laundry with, they can cook with, they can clean with. And we're also purchasing filters from Waves for Water, which is a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. So they have access to clean drinking water.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. It is just fantastic. And for people that are out there listening just now, I think it's important to mention at this point, both Amanda and I, you know, when it comes to money, I'm sure you agree with this, Amanda, that the money is simply energy. And the more that you put energy into something, then abundance will come. And sometimes the abundance comes in money. Now, I will be absolutely honest in saying that finance is something that I want to raise a lot of. But the reason why I want to raise a lot of it is because, for me, in my opinion, finance gives you power, which gives you a platform, which can then lead to change. And I want to change parts of our world for the better. You're basically on the same mission, aren't you, as well?
I am. Exactly. I have this big goal to create positive change in the world. And one way that we can go ahead and do that is by creating more abundance in our lives.
Yeah.
Partly through finances, so we have more to give.
Yeah.
To other people. And, you know, when I started off on the entrepreneurial journey, I think deep down inside that wasn't a part of it, but I didn't know how can I leverage that.
Yes, absolutely.
And over the past year or so, I've really stepped back and say, you know what, I don't have to be a millionaire to make a positive difference.
Yeah, exactly.
I can step up and I can make that difference now.
Yeah.
While I'm striving towards that point to make even more positive difference. So part of what I do is, like, with each client I work with through my coaching practice, I donate anywhere from 5 to 10% of those services directly towards either people in need or an environmental cause.
Yeah.
So we, as you know, as entrepreneurs, have the ability and capability to start making a difference.
No. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And that's actually been something that has always been in my head as I've been going along, because if you do not practice giving, let's say, 10% of £100, you won't be able to give 10% of 10 million.
Right.
Because you won't practice it. So that will seem like crazy, insane amount. It would be so unreal. But when you start to practice that from the get-go, from the beginning, then it just becomes a part of who you are and what you do. And you don't even think about it twice. I'm sure I read it in a book, and I can't remember what book it is, but it is, I suppose, as well. I mean, that's quite an old-fashioned thing to do, isn't it? It's in a lot of kind of old school religious books and things like that you always should practice, or any kind of spirituality. Always practice giving more than what you get. And although I'm completely spiritual, I don't have one set faith at all. I am a bit of a mixed up spiritual person. I believe in God, and I believe in the universe, and I meditate into Buddha and all sorts of stuff. But everything that comes through all of it is about gratitude, kindness, constantly serving in whichever way you can. So let's move on a little bit. And we were kind of mentioning things about stress there a little bit, and when you're on that plight for success and entrepreneurship and high level performance, all these things that we spoke about before, what can we do to begin, in your opinion, to shift the stress and move into a place of ultimate happiness? And I know that gratitude is going to be up there massively with that, because it's true, that's what it is. But what else? What are your other tips on getting there?
So one of the biggest tips, and it's one of the easiest things we can do at any given time during our day, is to breathe.
Yes.
So I like to think of it like, when we're in high levels of stress, it's kind of like we have a fire in our own house. And when we're on fire, one of the first things we're taught when we're in elementary school is stop, drop, and roll.
Yes.
So I tell people, stop, drop, and breathe.
I love it.
And when we give ourselves permission to do that, our stress levels will naturally begin to decrease.
Yeah.
That's one of like the most powerful and instantaneous things we can do in any type of stressful situation that we're experiencing, is to just hit the pause button and breathe. Absolutely.
I completely agree with that as well. I have to remind myself, believe it or not, to breathe.
Right.
Because sometimes I'm just like so involved in what I'm doing. I'm like, I haven't actually breathed into my complete full diaphragm and stomach for the last 5 hours. And it's madness. It is madness. Also, this is a hard question. I mean, this is huge, but tell me, how can we find happiness? Where can we find it? How can we find it?
Yeah. So in reality, there is no happiness to find. We're not going to find happiness outside of ourselves. And so often we get caught up in looking outside of ourselves for happiness, whether it's through a relationship, through our jobs, through having more material stuff. And we reach a point that it's like, yes, you know, financial abundance and materialism can help us experience a certain level of happiness through safety and security. But beyond that, it really doesn't have anything to do with happiness. And one of the things I've noticed with hard performers is that we're so busy, being busy and striving for the next goal, is that we've lost touch with who we are. Yeah. And we sit and say, well, what do you like to do for fun? And this blank stare comes over people's faces. It's like, you know, I don't know what I like to do for fun anymore because everything is work.
Yeah, that's so true. It is so true. You lose the child side of you, don't you? What do you do to play? Like, what is the thing? What is the stuff that gets your imagination growing, your creativity flowing?
Right. So yeah. So it's an invitation to one realize like, oh yeah, you know what? I have lost touch with who I am. I've lost touch with what lights me up and what I actually enjoy in life, with what I enjoy doing, and this creative side of me and this expressive, fun, joyful, playful side of myself. So it's actually like carving out time and making a date with ourselves to reconnect to that inner child again and begin to explore and figure out, you know, what fulfills us, what lights us up.
Can I ask, Amanda, what is one of the things that fills you up? What's one of the things that really excites you?
Movement. Yes. Movement is one of the things that fills me up. I absolutely love being able to move my body.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say that one of my things definitely is, and it's something that I have made sure is going to happen at least a few times this year, is music. Going to see live music. It's something that I just escape into. And I've booked a couple of festivals this year. I love dressing up. Not in like a weird way. I just love dressing up in like, I don't know, like feather caps and crowns and whatever. That whole festival thing, I just adore it. I adore the experience of being around people that you have no idea or clue who is, and sharing this incredible experience with them. And for other people that could be, you know, different things and maybe meditation groups or whatever, but for me it's music festivals that I absolutely adore them. And travel, of course, and then spending days, you know, lying in bed with my kids, talking about fairy tale stories and eating breakfast in bed. That's something else that I absolutely adore, and having lazy days, because I am lazy actually.
I love those lazy days.
I'm totally honest and putting it out there, I am quite lazy. So for anyone that's looking to work with me, no, I'm joking. I always show up, but I am lazy. I don't start my day until 10 o'clock. I just can't cope before that. I'm not a morning person. So tell me, what are some experiences that have shifted in your life, Amanda? And I suppose, why do you actually do what you do? What's inspired you?
Oh, goodness. That's a really wonderful question. And for me, a lot of it has been life experience. That was my big thing that invited me to do what I do. Yeah. I've been a single mom now for about 12 years, give or take. And when I was married, I was in an emotionally abusive relationship.
Okay.
So I was under an extreme level of stress and overwhelm. And I reached a point during that relationship where I was sitting in my bedroom. I had locked myself in my bedroom. My boys were very young at the time. I had an infant and a toddler. And my husband at the time was home, and we had a bottle of Tylenol in there. And I sat there holding the Tylenol and contemplated whether or not I wanted to commit suicide and overdose on Tylenol. So for me, that was a massive wake up and turning around point to sit and look at what was not working in my life, what I was not willing to put up with anymore, and to shift and create massive change.
Yeah.
Said, you know, is this all there is to life? Waking up every morning absolutely miserable, experience emotional abuse, not being able to leave the house, having no joy in my life other than looking at these two incredible beings who were around me.
Yeah.
And I chose to change. I chose to change. I was like, you know what? I need to leave. I have no idea what that's going to look like. It's absolutely terrifying, having been a stay-at-home parent for a couple of years and saying, how am I going to make ends meet? But I knew that that fear of potentially of leaving was not as great as the fear of what would happen if I stayed.
Yeah, if you stayed, yeah.
Yeah. So I chose to get out.
Yeah.
And I left and I took that leap. And then here I was, single parent, raising my two kids, asking myself, now what? How do I provide for these two beings? And at the time, I couldn't get a job. I was unhireable because I had been a stay-at-home mom.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So that led me into the holistic path. I said, you know, I don't want a job that's going to create more stress in my life. I want something that's fairly easy, that I can bring joy to people's lives, and I can really be present for my kids.
Yeah.
So I became a massage therapist, and then from there I became a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
And on that path, I experienced a car accident and a yoga injury. But prior to then, when I had first gotten divorced, I was so overwhelmed with my emotions and what I was feeling that I reached a point and I had said to myself, you know what, I'm going to ask myself what this is about.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. I was in complete survival mode and I begged for physical pain. So I wouldn't have to feel and experience the emotional pain that I was feeling.
My goodness.
And I got it in the form of the car accident and the yoga injury.
My goodness,
and
it was all like the universe was responding to.
It was just completely responding to everything I was asking for, and realizing through that experience of healing those injuries is like, okay, yes. Has there been physical trauma? Yes. But the root of this was all the emotional trauma I had experienced over those years and had not allowed myself to feel and process.
Yeah, so now was the point of not just physical healing, but mental healing.
Mental and emotional healing as well. And so I saw through my own process in my own life of extreme stress and overwhelm, what that can do to us. And that brink of questioning, you know, is life worth living, which some people will reach the point of contemplating suicide. Others will go into more addictive options, whether it's through drugs or alcohol. And really diving in and doing my own work. And then through that process saying, you know what, I have a gift here. Let's explore that. And from there, I went on and got my life coaching certifications and everything else. Yeah.
Incredible. I mean, it's just such an inspiring journey, Amanda. Inspiring, but completely heartbreaking at the same time, that you got to a point where you know, considered whether your children almost would be better with you not being here. It's almost like what it's like as well. It's like, I don't want to be here. So, and I don't want my children to see this part of me that's broken. So I've got a choice here of leaving this world or changing and staying and fighting on and trying to make some sense about, you know, why all this has happened and why I've gone through what I've gone through. And a lot of people that can be the end for, let's be honest.
Right.
The bravery it must have taken for you to choose the change option is quite incredible, Amanda.
Yeah, it's huge. And I want people out there to know that's like, I mean, yes, we all have our journeys and we have our, you know, hero's journey and stuff, but you don't necessarily have to get to that point to create change. Is that we have an option to create change right here, right now in our lives. We don't have to wait for that metaphorical, you know, car accident. We don't have to wait to the point where we're contemplating suicide. We don't have to wait to the point where we've experienced one overdose on heroin or opioids to wake up and say, you know what, something has to shift now.
Absolutely. You're so right, Amanda. And the work that you're doing now in assisting people to understand that their gift, their story, just till now, matters. Every single part, every single thing that they've gone through to this moment where they can now release and begin to make that positive change is important. And they've got a story to share. And I always believe as well that there is, in some way, and as hard as it may seem when you're actually in the midst of it all, there's always a positive to be taken from every part of your journey, isn't there? There
is. And one of the things that we can find ourselves getting caught up on in the journey is saying, you know, why is this happening to me?
Yes, yeah.
The why is me, the woe is me, versus why is this happening for me?
Yes, of course.
What am I meant to get out of this? What am I being asked to rise into and learn from this journey and this experience? And that can be a really challenging question.
Yeah, of course.
To sit back and ask ourselves. But one thing I wanted to touch on is that, yes, you know, our story absolutely matters. And there are so many times for many of us, like growing up as children and hearing like, you know, be quiet and don't speak. Yeah. Children are meant to be seen and not heard. Yeah. We create this big story around like, I don't matter. My story doesn't matter. What I'm feeling doesn't matter. I don't have permission to express myself because this means X, Y, and Z. But a story absolutely matters, and every single person on this planet matters.
Yes.
When we give ourselves permission to hear our story and express our story, what we're really doing is telling ourselves, you matter.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful, Amanda. I hope everyone listening out there today, no matter what it is you're going through just now, whether it be positive or negative, you've listened to some of Amanda's journey and you're inspired and motivated to take further action, either with work on yourself or making sure that, you know, you inspire others with your journey and with your story. Amanda, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. I know that you've got a website. It's www.amandaleigh.com. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. And it's Leigh Patti, Patti.com. And you can find some of Amanda's work there. Is there anything else, Amanda? Any other way that we can find you? Do you have a community group or anything like that on Facebook at all?
I don't have a community group on Facebook right now. I welcome people to reach out to me on Facebook. Wonderful. On my personal page. That's totally fine. On Instagram as well. I'm always happy to share powerful conversations with people and connect.
Excellent. What's your Instagram, Amanda?
So my Instagram is Amanda L. Patti.
Excellent. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I am really looking forward to collaborating and working with you during the coming years in some capacity.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure and an honor being here with you today.
Awesome. Thank you. So everyone listening, thank you so much for your constant support. Remember to please subscribe if you can so that you don't ever miss one of the Unstoppable podcast shows. Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning again, wherever you are in the world. I hope you have the most magnificent day or night, and keep on keeping on. Love always, everyone, and peace out. Bye.